So even though the Beastars manga is over, there's still a plot thread that was left heavily unanswered, and there is so much we don't know about it. I'm talking huge expansive lore that was just teased at, but we never really learned much about. There's so much mystery surrounding it too. Like, just how important is this figure in society, and how is it able to end an entire war? That, of course, is something I'm not telling you yet, because I have to give my spoiler warning first. Spoilers for chapter 154 of Beastars and on. Alright, so with that out of the way, Beastars' biggest mystery, aka Beastars lore. So, I'm gonna be honest, Beastars lore is kinda...
A big whale appeared and stopped the war! The whale was so big that the herbivores stopped taking the war seriously! So they surrendered and the war was over!
A big... whale?
Don't smile at me like that! You don't believe me, do you, Lugosi? Ah, jeez, I should have never have told you.
Come on, it's not like I don't believe you. It's just, you kinda shifted into fantasy.
You don't believe me!
I do!
Yeah, it's pretty weird. What do you think, Cook Boss?
It's kind of random.
Well, yeah, I agree. The lore isn't exactly the most consistent, and introducing Mr. Jinbei over here isn't really doing it any favors. But I gotta give some context before I cover, that. I created a timeline for Beastars that we'll go over throughout the video. All of the years on here are guesses based on actual history and when the manga started serializing, so technically I can't say any of these numbered dates are canon. But even with that, it's time to cover the very beginning of our timeline, the Dinosaur Era. So all the way back in 66 million BC, the dinosaurs roamed the earth. Things were going great. Well, until... So we really don't know what caused all creatures, other than fish, kind of, to evolve to have intelligence like we humans did. But in this timeline, it kind of just happened. But something to heavily note about the Beastars world is that all religions within it were formed around the dinosaurs. It does make sense because if all animals that are alive currently have the same amount of advanced intelligence as each other, who's to say that the dinosaurs didn't either? Maybe that's the thing that caused evolution to work the way it did in this world, because maybe the dinosaurs could talk too. Who really knows? Hell, even the animals of modern society are not quite sure themselves about that fact. But because of that possibility, they decide to worship the dinosaurs in a sense. There's the Meteor Festival and all sorts of celebrations surrounding them. There are implied to be many of them, but unfortunately, we really haven't got to see much of them. But the ones we have seen are Shinto herbivore dinosaur festivals, and Jesus being retconned for a giant flying T-Rex, Rexmas. We don't know when it was established, but that's what the Beastars World has in place of Christmas. So now that we've established the significance of dinosaurs, let's jump to around 12,000 BC. After the meteor hit, all creatures in existence evolved to have advanced intelligence like our world's humans, and animal society began. Wrong. Insects are still insects, and fish are a whole other subject, oh god. But we're just gonna stick to the land animals for now. Carnivores were called life animals because they took life, and herbivores were called nature animals because they looked to nature for their protection. Now for the establishment of animal society, 12,000 BC to 16th century AD. Wait, there's no Jesus, so should I be using BC or AD? Wait, no, because I can't use BCE or CE because technically there's no Jesus to define when the Common Era was. You know what? Paru didn't give us anything else to use, so I'm just going to continue using them. Life and nature animals decided to make a pact with each other. Life animals not only had an urge to take life, but also to protect it. And that's how carnivores and herbivores began to live in harmony. And for the most part, that way society worked for a very long time. Because the life animals were way less reliant on meat, which wasn't even a term that was established yet, they began to shrink down and become less monster-like. So from here, I'm pretty sure animal civilization established the same civilizations as us. I think. It's not very clear. We do see 16th century Renaissance London, but there's no way of saying if that place is actually called London. Here's the part that the ending of Beastars really made confusing about the lore as a whole. Beastars takes place in Japan, or at least a very Japan-like place, and this image does not look very similar to what 16th century Japan looked like. So there are obviously other civilizations out there, right? Right? Well, Lugosi said that by ending the back alley market in his city, it in turn changed the world. The world is a very broad term. Normally, that could just mean that what he did in his one city had an impact on the rest of the cities in the world because it showed carnivores overcoming the back alley market. But because of how Beastars chose to handle its world building by pretty much never mentioning the world outside of this city except for this one image and always referencing events in this city as events in the world, it leads us to believe that this one city may very well be the entire world. Like, even when they mention country, it's never anything other than this one singular country. It's a far-fetched theory and we really have no clue. I mean, maybe the people within this city think that this is the only civilization in the world, but they just haven't looked beyond the walls yet. Who knows? Moving on from that, we are going to take a quick stop in 1849 AD to the founding of the Horns Conglomerate. It's really not that important to the overall lore of the world, but I just wanted to throw that in there because I mentioned it in the Father Figures video, and I wanted to make things a little organized, so why not make this streamlined? It's not the exact canon date because we never actually have any canon date of years in Beastars, so this is just a mathematical guess based on manga serialization, and also the average time that a successful businessman works and then retires. Anyway, let's jump to the 20th century on the timeline. Here's where I assume that animal society's technology started advancing into the modern era. We don't know the political geography of the world, but we could maybe assume that places like America, the UK, the Ottoman Empire exist? Maybe? Well, in our world, at the start of the 20th century, there was a full-on world war that brought us into the modern era. Was there something like that for the Beastars world? Yes. Oh god, yes. Let's jump to 1915 AD, the start of the first, and I'm pretty sure the only World War. Instead of it being the Allies versus the Axis powers fighting, it was straight up all the carnivores and herbivores in the world at war with each other. Let's go to the reason why this war was started. Tensions between the life and nature animals had been rising for a very long time, and war was inevitable. Remember, the pact that they made to work together and not eat each other was made during the Bronze Age, aka all the way back in 12,000 BC. Now it's 1915 AD, 13,000 years later. Things are starting to slip now. Life animals have instincts, and we're having trouble controlling them, and the nature animals were too afraid to coexist with the life animals or help them overcome their instincts, so instead, they wanted to eliminate their fear entirely. 1915, the Carni-Herbi War erupted, which changed everything. Though, this is where the question is brought up again, if the entire world is just this one city. This is not just multiple powerful nations going at war with each other. This is the entire world's population split down the middle, having a full-on militarized war against each other. How does that happen? This is implying that every single country in the world were all having civil wars with themselves while simultaneously teaming up with all other countries to take down themselves? I mean, it's not like there are entire countries of only carnivores or only herbivores because it was established that they've always lived together since the dawn of civilization. But you know what would make this make more sense though? If the entire world was just the city. I mean, I really don't like that reality, but I mean, that would easily explain how a war of this scale would be possible within this context. But then what about Beast Complex chapters 1, 3, and 4? Where do they take place? Is this all the same city? Are there other countries? Look, this video is called Beastar's Biggest Mystery for a reason. I have no clue. Paru did not give us enough information about this. So, how did the war end? Oh god. Well, the war lasted one whole year, and for those of you who don't know how it ended, take a moment to guess. Hell, put your guess in the comments and tag a time signature to this area. You guys will probably guess something like a major battle being won, or a top commander being taken out, or a summit negotiation. Well, I'll let you guys see for yourselves.
The carnivores and the herbivores.
This isn't right. Our population was 3 times bigger than yours, and now our population is the same. And even worse, all our corpses are disappearing. You're using this war as an excuse to eat us, you damn carnivores!
Please, surrender. Herbivores, if you keep fighting us, we're gonna eat you all up. I don't want to destroy the civilization we worked so hard to create. This is nonsense. If you surrender now, we won't eat you. You must let us atone for this. From now into the distant future.
Go on, Jack, say the thing.
A big whale!
Yeah. Huh? Remember how I mentioned that fish society is a whole other thing to tackle? Well, it's a thing that exists, and I'll fully go into it towards the end of this video, but I do need to talk about it a little bit right now. The aquatic society is a little less advanced than the land society, except kind of not. They both have the ability of complex thought and communicate through complex languages, except a lot of them are still just fishes and happen to be able to speak. But there are also some physically anthropomorphized sea animals like the spotted seal, and then away from all of that, there's this whale. The land and sea societies have stayed almost completely isolated from each other for the entirety of history, but this whale, who is presumably the leader of the aquatic society, has been observing the land animals for quite some time and had something to say that was powerful enough to end a war? What exactly did the whale say?
I might catch a cold. It's hard to believe you're 400 years old with a blow like that. Your presence put an end to the Carni-Herbi War. The word reverence doesn't even describe the amount of respect I have for you.
Your sea speak has improved, Yafya.
Thank you. My associates are telling me that your words which stopped the war would give me a hint necessary for this animal society. What did you say? Can you still not tell me?
The land animals are immature. They're always fighting. They have to coexist more peacefully before I can tell you.
Is that right? In that case, consider the summit meeting adjourned.
Trust me, we'll get to what he said, and it's extremely rushed. But I think it's good if I hold off from saying what the whale said for now, because in my opinion, not knowing leaves some ambiguity. And I think it will have the rest of the lore going forward make actually more sense by not knowing what the whale said, because it's a really rushed answer. 1916, the establishment of modern animal society. So because of this war, life and nature animals got new names. Life animals became carnivores, and nature animals became herbivores. Now, this is just a theory, but I think that the Beastar system was only established after this war. So to try and create better diplomacy between each of the individual races of animals, the top secret All-Organism Council was established to handle political issues in society between the races and to appoint Beastars. Alright, I've been making Beastars videos for almost a year and a half now, and I've been waiting to redefine my answer to this question that I tried to answer in my very first video on the series. So, what exactly is a Beastar? It's complicated, kind of. The first half of Beastars established what it was, and then the second half kind of took all of that and threw it away for something new. But hot take here, I actually prefer the second system more than the first one. The first one is that every year, each of the high schools in the country produces a Beastar who gets special training, and whoever does their best in that training becomes a Sublime Beastar. In Chapter 53, it's mentioned that there are multiple Sublime Beastars, but then in the second half of Beastars, it's said that Yafya is the one and only Sublime Beastar. For the sake of trying to keep consistency, I'm going to try to interpret both of these systems together into one and try to answer what a Beastar is. A Beastar, or should I really say the Sublime Beastar, is someone who has shown the right amount of leadership to prove themselves to be the one and only figurehead of animal society. Since the Sublime Beastar could have any skill of their choosing, the title is more or less just, well, a title. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Sublime Beastar still has a lot of power, but they don't always have to make all the decisions for society if they really don't want to. The All-Organism Council can decide on what to do for certain affairs within society, while the Sublime Beastar gets to pursue the occupation of their choosing and has reign over the police force. There is only ever one Sublime Beastar at a time, because the term Beastars is unheard of. Alright, I tried to break through the inconsistencies, and this is the best answer I could give. Moving on from that, there is one last thing that has resulted from this war, the creation of the back alley market. Because of the war, carnivores realized just how much they craved meat, and so they created a secret pocket within society where they could freely indulge in their meat-loving desires. The law states that carnivores are not allowed to eat live animals, so the back alley market's residents have found a loophole in that by selling meat from already dead animals. But this also led to predations becoming a lot more common, and so the term meat was officially coined in 1916 because of all of this. Now for the market itself, I actually go a lot more into detail about it in my previous video, What Makes an Arc Great, aka Murder Solution Series Part 3. So if you're curious for more information on the back alley market, go watch that. The link for it is in the description. So anyway, let's jump to the 20s through the 60s. The Beastar system is going pretty well, but as a result of that, K9's offspring began to be genetically altered to make them into the smartest and most elite animals who would one day grow up to run the world through the All-Organism Council and being the Sublime Beastar, to one day start a dog dictatorship. And that's how dogs were created in Beastars. That plot point never goes anywhere. 1981, the current Sublime Beastar Yafya is appointed. His speciality was crime fighting, and so that's what he used his Sublime Beastar role for, being able to fight crime whenever and wherever he can. Although, because he was always off in the shadows fighting, he really was never there to actually be a figurehead, so the idea of the Sublime Beastar becomes almost a myth to the general public. Here we finally are, 2016, the beginning of Beastars. Beastars started serialization in 2016, and Beastars is supposed to be set in, simply put, the modern day, so I'm going with that. So the events of Beastars happened, and technically we're done with the lore now because we are in the territory of stuff that happens during the series. Except there is one thing I need to cover. February 2018. The back alley market is demolished, and that was proof to the whale that the land animals were mature enough to learn what he said that caused the Carni-Herbi war to end. Oh boy, we've been waiting for this for so long. This has been built up for 40 chapters. What is it? It's that the Aquatic Society doesn't care about eating meat, so they could just eat fish meat. Are you fucking 12,000 BC? Aquatic Society is started, and it is left almost completely isolated from the Land Animal Society. They develop their own language called Sea Speak, and they live a more simple way of life. We know next to nothing about them, but what little we do know is that they don't wear clothes and they view life and death in a more natural way. They believe that the two go hand in hand, and it is a beautiful process, and so death is nothing scary to them. 1916, the sea creatures want to become closer to the land animals, so they start sending ambassadors to the land in the form of spotted seals to try and bridge the gap between the land and sea societies. Also 1916, the goddamn whale ends the Carni-Herbi war by saying that they are down to export fish meat. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, you could argue that the whale also explaining how the Aquatic Society views life and death swayed them to end the war, but still, how would that end the war? If the whale offered fish meat, why didn't the land animals take it? I understand why Yafya didn't accept it because things were already peaceful again, but the animals during the war, if they stopped their war over this fact, how come they didn't already start incorporating fish meat in their society and preventing stuff like the back alley market from existing? Cook Boss, what do you think of all of this?
Well, to me, it's very, very confusing. Paru Itagaki made a universe that has a lot of plot holes and made no attempt to cover them whatsoever. And I have questions as well. In terms of biology, why would there only be one common ancestor for all of the species in the Beastars universe? Why would it be just dinosaurs? It is just so baffling to me why Paru Itagaki decided to just make dinosaurs a common ancestor of every animal in Beastars. I mean, sure, there are certain birds that are theorized to have evolved from dinosaurs, but that can only be applied with Legom, Aoba, and Dom, the only avian characters that had any screen time in the series. Also, upon the subject of carnivores not being able to eat meat because of morals, in the history of the Beastars universe, nobody made a decent enough meat substitute. They live in the modern times. They have internet and smartphones. Hell, they have a cooking show. Is this universe telling me that not one chef came out of the woodwork and concocted a way to make tofu taste, smell, and feel like cooked meat that can be a decent enough substitute to fool any hungry predator? It's just so baffling. That's what I think. As much as I love this franchise, there are just certain plot holes in its lore that cannot be ignored.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. What about you, Adderman?
I do find the lore of Beastars quite interesting, though the problem with it, at least in my opinion, it feels extremely rushed. I do have to bring up the whole carnivore-herbivore war, because that brings up the question if the city's just the whole world. It wouldn't make sense if the whole world would have a civil war all at one time between the two factions. And it also doesn't make sense that a whale was able to stop a global conflict by just doing a simple backflip over the sun. And I feel like we need more context than that.
To wrap up everything, Beastars lore is pretty messy, but I'll admit, it's not that bad. Everything involving the whale is pretty dumb though, oh my god. But the rest is pretty cool. I just wish Paru elaborated more on the actual world geography of Beastars. Every time the word country is even mentioned, it really never implies anything outside of the city. Now look, the entire Beastars world probably isn't just that one city. Paru just didn't get to plan that much ahead for how she wanted to do her world building. Beastars was originally supposed to end after the Murder Solution arc, and so many pieces of lore went either unplanned or contradicted in the later chapters, such as the Beastar system. But I could tell that she really wanted to make the Beastar system still work in the second half of the manga, and I kinda like the idea of there being one singular Sublime Beastar. It makes the role seem that much more special and influential. Plus, Yafya is my favorite character. He's very well written, and the pressures of being the one singular Sublime Beastar work so well towards his character arc. Even though I think the ending with the whale was extremely rushed, I could definitely tell that Paru was really trying when she created the lore for the Beastars world. It may not have been executed in the best way, and that's why her lore is Beastar's biggest mystery, because there are so many inconsistencies with it. It is what it is, but you know what? Beastars is still a very enjoyable series. Anyway, I'll see you guys for my next video, my Murder Solution series part 4, the Riz video. I'm sorry for my long absence. I'm back now and the Riz video is coming soon. I just wanted to say thank you to all the voice actors who voiced in this video. We had a fun time recording and they all did an amazing job. Also, quick shout out to Airborne. Wow, your range is insane, and you could really yell. Such a great voice actor, and I'm really glad that you're a part of this, man. Also, I want to say thank you to Joseph VS for being a great co-director as always, and also thank you to him for being the sound mixer for the dub scenes this time around. Also, thank you to CookBoss88 for appearing in this video. He makes great content about Reddit, and I really want you guys to check him out. It was really fun working with him for this video. Also, thank you to Adderman again for the Patreon cameo. Roger Thomas, you're next. Then Starfish Tutor. Alright, plug time. Join my Discord server and follow my Twitter. As always, here are my patrons. You guys are amazing, and you guys keep this channel going. So thank you guys so much. So, what's next? Well, in my absence, I fell behind a bit, so I'm going to try and catch up. I have a 701 Lounge podcast episode coming very soon with a special guest, Tony Azzolino, the official voice actor of Aoba in Beastars. Also, Beast Complex the movie is delayed until, April. I'm sorry, guys. Also, I have a little English cover of the Beastars Season 2 ED, Gentle Comet, coming out very soon. It's a fun little side video, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Lastly, this has been requested for the longest time, so here we finally go. The Riz video is my next mainline video. It's Murder Solution Series Part 4, coming real soon, so I'll see you guys then.